Let go, let God. That's Cuba Gooding Jr.'s motto, and it's done pretty well for him. Of course, he's won an Oscar, and now he plays an inmate on death row.
For me, when I see things in the news or a headline or something, and I'm like, where is that from? God, your will be done. I have to let it go. I try not to take the good or the bad too seriously in either way. And then I let go and let God, let him work it out.
I'm DavidSams, and this is CIA, Contagious Influencers of America. And today, right here in the Homestead studio, I am honored to have an Oscar winner with us. First time I think we've had an Academy Award winner here in the Homestead studio. But you're going to recognize his face as soon as you see him. He, of course, has starred so many great movies. Let me see. Probably the greatest was Jerry Maguire. How could you forget that, right? Boys in the Hood, Men of Honor, so many iconic movies. I saw this list, and it's mind-boggling how many great roles he's been. And of course, he's a Broadway star, but Broadway actor as well. But today he's here to talk to us about his new film, and it's a film that he stars alongside a very good friend of ours. That's Kevin Sorbo, who was on our last podcast. It's called The Firing Squad, and it hits theaters on August the 2nd all across the country. So you can check out where to get your tickets and get your seats and all that at FiringSquadFilm.com. That's FiringSquadFilm.com. So please do check that out. This is a really cool movie. It takes place in Indonesia, and both Kevin and Cuba are inmates. And I'm not going to go into the whole story because it's a movie of redemption, salvation, and boy, what these two conjured up that created this like spiritual just uprising in a Indonesian prison is pretty amazing. So Cuba's going to talk about growing up. He's going to talk about his some of his iconic roles, and of course, he's going to talk about his walk of faith. And that was intriguing. I didn't know everything about his walk with Jesus. So he's going to be talking to us about that in just a second. So then again, you know what? These things get better and better all the time, and we have all kinds of great guests coming. And I really, really appreciate it. And I appreciate all you two for watching and for you giving us so much great support, especially those of you who rate us with 5 stars. Okay, so I can't wait to show you my interview with Cuba Gooding Jr., so let's get right to it. Well, welcome to the Homestead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, how cute is this place? I mean, and I'm in a movie theater talking about movies.
There you go. There you go. And you're good at those. So let's talk about this new one.
Yes, sir.
The Firing Squad. What compelled you to sign up for this?
So Tim Shea, who's the writer, director, producer, produced another movie that I had done maybe 13 years ago, a film called Freedom, which was another faith-based movie about these runaway slaves who make it to Nova Scotia and find redemption and salvation. And we hit it off on that production, and he said, I have something else in the works, and I'd like to send it to you. I said, send me anything. I'll read anything. And 13 years later, 12 years later, he calls me and says, I have the script that I was telling you about. I said, great. And I read it, and it was literally one of those cathartic moments of emotional release for me when I finished the script, because it was my dad had passed away in 2017, and he was a lead singer of a group called The Main Ingredient, and he would always say, I'm the singer, you're the actor. So I even get nervous singing Happy Birthday, that type of thing. But when he passed the next year, I was cast as Billy Flynn in Chicago, the musical, on the West End stage. So I got a vocal trainer for 9 months, and then did that run so successfully, I did it again on Broadway for another 6 months. And so when I read that this character kind of leads these group of men in the movie through this song, it was one of those things where it was like my life finally came together and was like, this is what you've been training for type moments. And it was also nice to be able, as a Christian since I was a kid, my walk in faith with God my whole entire career, to be able to use my talents for him, in that specific way of people seeing the movie and experiencing this emotional truth that I think the film has, especially in that third act. So, and here I am. So
here you are, yeah. Faith-based movies have really found a place in the hearts of millions of Americans who have felt left out of the entertainment, the theatrical, the television experience for many years, and there's just this avalanche of faith-based movies now. What do you think that is?
Very simple. The business known as show is all about the dollar. And if you look at, the examples because I'm sure you've seen all the movies, but if you look at a secular example of the Barbenheimer principle, where Barbie and Oppenheimer came out and made $1 billion, the third movie that last summer was Sound of Freedom, but there was no publicity about it. It just came and went. And that, to me, is the machine that is Hollywood, focusing on what they think the people want to see. But you can't deny that these movies are coming in droves. And I think part of that, too, is due to the pandemic, because, even during the pandemic, Christians made it to church on Sunday. They sat in their congregation, and they have that mentality, I believe, this faith-based movie-going audience, to go to the theater when the pastor says, this is something for us, this is a movie for us, go. And they go, and that's why these movies keep making the money that they make, and they'll continue to make the money they make. And lastly, I'll say on that is, Hollywood is cyclical. And if you remember, the Jack Warners and the Columbia Studios and the Paramounts, they all started with these biblical movies. And, it's time we get back to these films that can bring a little inspiration, hope, and expose. Like I said on one of my interviews earlier today, it's so funny when you do a day of interviews, you feel like you're repeating yourself, even though I'm like, wait, Cube, that was this morning, not now. But it's, as a society, all the news and everything, it's just all the negativity and the internet and all of these headlines, and it's all clickbait and headlines. Truth is out the window. It's just whatever they say. I knew eventually we as a society have got to get back to God, and it was one of those moments where when I read the script, I was like, these movies are going to make a resurgence. And now this is the first of 3 that I have. So, I see it as one of the soldiers in the field that Hollywood is now. They can hide as much. It's almost like, you know what a residual is? When you get a residual check from a movie that you did years ago, you only get those when they can no longer hide the profits. Mm-hmm. Then they go, okay, we got to start giving residuals. It's just a true thing. And I think that mentality has made its way into faith-based films as well.
You talk about headlines and clickbait and all that, and there have been a lot of headlines regarding you and issues regarding you and people making claims. We seem to live in a rush to judgment world these days. Yeah. We see what we've been through, especially with some of our political leaders. How do you deal with this?
Well, my whole life, I found the Lord when I was 9, 10, 11. Miss McCraven was a old lady at the end of the block where all the kids would go play at, and you can have all the candy you want, you can play all the board games you want, but you have to read a verse from the Bible. And we just got so accustomed to doing that one day my mom came in, because I had been over her house for so long. She was yelling and cussing and, doing all this stuff. And Miss McCraven led her to the Lord. And one of the prayers, there's a lot of prayers that I say, but the one is, thine will be done. When I wake up, I say, Lord, thine will be done today. And when I go to sleep, thine will be done. And it's one of those things that, for me, when I see things in the news or a headline or something, and I'm like, where is that from? God, your will be done. I have to let it go. I try not to take the good or the bad too seriously in either way. And then I let go and let God, let him work it out, and it's been something that's given me strength and courage. And at the end of the day, I also tell myself, Cube, God gave you a talent. Your talent is to bring truth to emotion in the roles that you play. And I played O.J. Simpson. I played Nicky Barnes in American Gangster. These dark roles, these dark places I've gone to. But I've also played people like Master Chief Carl Bashir in Men of Honor, and Dory Miller in Pearl Harbor, and James Robert Radio Kennedy in Radio, and Ben Carson in Gifted Hands. So I feel that my gift is always to bring truth to the emotion of the moment and the character, and everything else will work itself out. And now I'm just happy that here is another true story of these Americans who are in this dark place, who do dark things, but at the end of our tale, they find strength and redemption and in their faith. And so it's nice to be able to use this gift he gave me for him.
Gifted Hands, I love that movie. It was so. I mean, it was just one of those movies that just sort of sneaks up on you. I mean, you weren't expecting it. You know, it's just one of those stories. It's just so incredible.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your roles, how you select a role, how you decide, you know what, this is how I want to spend the next year of my life or whatever. This is how I want to be portrayed. This is how I want to be seen. I mean, that's a big decision because you're stuck with it.
Yeah. It's so funny because depending on when you talk to me in my career, there was a time where I told Steven Spielberg no, and I told this director no, and that director no, because I was looking for the right role in the statement. And then you get to a point where you say, well, now you're having to just do anything to pay the bills. So why don't you let go again and just accept the work as it comes to you and do what your gift is in that. And if the movie's meant to find an audience, it will. And if it's not, it won't. But to step, in other words, I started to get out of my own way. And I mean, there's several films I'm offered right now that a couple of them I'm like, I hope this doesn't come through, and they haven't. And a couple of deals have fallen through, but the ones that I'm meant to be in always seem to manifest themselves. And so the decision I guess I'm saying is made for me through the process of getting involved in a project.
So what was the film you told Steven Spielberg no to? So
can I defend myself a little bit? So I did a movie with Dustin Hoffman called Outbreak. And by the way, it went to #1 on Netflix and everything during the pandemic because everybody's like, oh, this is a real thing. But he went to the studio. I can't remember if it was I think it was Warner Brothers. And he had an idea to do a movie about Cinque, the slave who took over a slave ship and made it to America and was put on trial. And it was a beautiful pitch, and he had writers, and they passed on it. And then you fast forward years later, Spielberg says that I'm going to do that story. But when I read the script, it wasn't from Cinque's point of view. It was from the lawyers. So it wasn't what I had envisioned it to be when Dustin had approached me with it. And so I was like, let's find something else. And then, it just went its way. But yeah, that was my thinking by saying Spielberg. And so if he calls tomorrow and asks me to play this cup in a short film, I'll do it. But at the time, I was pretty convicted. Yeah.
And what's the dream role that you've never had that you've always thought, man, there ought to be a film made of this, and I want to star in?
So I've been playing ice hockey for 30 years now. I still skate. I skate with the Florida Panthers coaches when they're out of season, waiting for that call actually, and waiting to drink out of the cup since they just won it. But what people don't understand, and they always laugh and they go, Cuba, black people don't skate. Black people don't skate. And I go, well, here's a little funny thing that you should know. Back in the day of the Underground Railroad, the slaves used to go up into Nova Scotia, and they learned the ways of the land. And the native Canadians taught them their game of ice hockey. And they got so proficient at it that they started an all-black ice hockey league of the Maritimes, right? And so when people say that, I was going to look for the picture, but it took me forever to find it. But the NHL rules were based on, I don't know if they all were based, but the original rules were based on some of the rules of this Negro League of the Maritimes. So it's that thing. I want to tell that story. I want to make that movie. And you talk about faith-based. I mean, these people, these slaves knew that God had a better plan for them. And not only did he have a better plan for them, he had a place in history for them as well. So, and I've been blessed. Listen, I've had roles that I will be more proud of than any in telling the Tuskegee Airmen story twice with Red Tails and the Tuskegee Airmen. And like you mentioned, Ben Carson and Men of Honor and Dory Miller and Pearl Harbor. So I've been able to tell some of our history. I remember when I got the script for Tuskegee Airmen, I was angry because I was 24, 25 years old. Never even knew that we fought, not just foot soldiers, but we were flying these P-52 jets. And I was like, this story should have been told years ago. Let's tell it. So it's that drive in me that always looks to tell the stories. There's another script that I have in development about, a slave ship. And a slave was brought over from Africa, and he wound up becoming the doctor for this community. And doing all of these miracle surgeries and all of these things way back in, before slavery, if you think about it. So these stories are ones that, if I can bring some truth to emotion and light, that'd be fun.
So your foundation, let's talk about that. Let's talk about your childhood and what it was like growing up, and I know your mom and dad split, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Tell me what you had to work through and how you got to the other end of that.
I mean, in what way? How much time is this interview really supposed to be?
Well, because there are a lot of people that are going through this right now. They're.
I mean, so my dad was did I mention again? I keep forgetting.
Yes, you did.
My dad was the lead singer, the main ingredient. My mom and dad separated. I believe right at around the time that Miss McCraven came into our life. That was another factor. My mom came to the Lord, and then we got evicted literally the next week. And we're what my mom refers to as on the road, living in the backseat of her Pinto with me, my sister, my little brother, and a Great Dane. That's probably why I bred Great Danes for so long. And we lived out of this car literally off and on through high school. And it was one of those things where at one point, all right, so I'm trying not to get too technical because there's a lot of stuff, but I went to 4 different high schools. The first one was in Apple Valley High School as a 9th grader. My grandmother said, you guys got to get out. You can't live here anymore. So we went and we drove. My mom found a place in Apple Valley. I went there. That lease ran out. So one circumstance led to the other. We moved to Orange County. And that's when I went to Tustin High School. At Tustin High School, and every high school that I was in, I was the star of the drama department because I could do backflips. I was a gymnast, and I was crazy and just like insane energy, which hasn't changed much, but it is what it is. And then we were in Orange County. We were at the Sixpence Inn, which was a motel, a roadside motel. And eventually, the school year ended, and during that summer, we got kicked out of there, and we moved up. And funny enough, stayed with Miss McCraven, who let us stay at her place. And then my mom said, I got a little money. We're going to get another apartment or something. That fell through, and we wound up staying at another hotel during now. So you got 9th grade, 10th grade, now I'm in 11th grade. Now this year, there was something called the Shakespeare Film Festival. LAUSD, Los Angeles Unified School District's Shakespeare Film Festival. And I competed in individual monologue, playing the character Festy in 12th Night, and won the thing. And when you win, you go on stage and you perform in front of all the other high schools, their drama classes. So it's thousands of kids in this auditorium, and you do your monologue. At the end of my monologue, I did a backflip. The place went crazy, okay? Now, back to the road. We lose this place. We find another motel in North Hollywood. And instead of switching schools, because I said, I'm not going to go to 4 schools in 4 years. I'm going to stay at this one. So I would do the drive every morning. And finally that year, 11th grade year ended. And then the 12th summer hit. I got my job, Bob's Big Boy Jr. was a burger place, switched me to the North Hollywood. My mom said, you got your job here. We're staying here in North Hollywood. Just switch schools. And I was like, fine. And I'll never forget the day I walked into Diana Horn's drama class, everybody cheered. And he goes, Festi from 12th night. And that moment was the catalyst of my career trajectory, because I was in every play that year as a senior, because as a senior, you get the choice of the roles. Mm-hmm. And Coralie Jr., the Coralie Jr. agency's son, was one of the key grips in the stage production. So she came to see her son's play, and she came backstage and said, I'm Coralie, and I think you got what it takes, kid. And she put me in the movie Boys in the Hood, and my career.
Wow.
That was the trajectory of it. And funny, Coralie's story was, I mean, I tell you, I could talk this for an hour, but there were 2 child stars, Shirley Temple and Coralie Jr. And one got all the attention and the other one did her roles, but it was all about Shirley Temple. And she was on a film set, seeing how they were mistreating these little people in the corner who were drinking and doing all this crazy stuff. And she represented them and got them a hotel and all this stuff and started her agency. So she had little people, sword swallowers, female impersonators, strong men, all of this stuff, and one actor. So whenever maybe 1 or 2 actors, but anytime a role would come for just a normal actor, she'd send me in. And Jackie Brown said, Coralie, I need a 50-year-old white guy for this role. So she sent me in, and the casting director said, oh, honey, you're at the wrong audition. I said, well, you might as well let me read since I'm here. She said, all right, come on in. And I started doing the whole thing. She laughed. She said, you're not going to get this part, obviously, but I'm going to remember you for something else. And the something else was Boys in the Hood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll get right back with my interview with Cuba Gooding Jr., but first...
This summer, your local movie theater will become a tent revival for proclaiming Jesus, and you're invited to be a part of this unique evangelistic campaign. Join with believers nationwide for the Million Souls campaign to bring unsaved family and friends to watch the powerful new movie, The Firing Squad, starring Kevin Sorbo and Cuba Gooding Jr. The Firing Squad tells the incredible true story about prisoners who find faith in the face of execution and transform their prison in the process. As the movie ends, co-star Kevin Sorbo comes on the screen to lead the entire theater in a prayer to commit one's life to Jesus Christ, providing an on-site opportunity to introduce family and friends to the message of Jesus. Go to FiringSquadFilm.com and learn how you can receive free tickets and more to The Firing Squad and participate in this unique theater event. Bring your friends and your family, and bring your faith. That's FiringSquadFilm.com to learn more.
And now back to my interview with Cuba Gooding Jr. So what was the one thing your mom taught you that has stayed with you, and the one thing your dad has taught you that stayed with you?
Well, my dad, it's so funny. He would always say, it's almost the same bit of advice from both of them, but my dad would always say, you can say whatever you say, but say it with a smile. Because people want to feel like they're not being attacked. So if you have to chastise somebody, never stop smiling. And my mom would say, no matter how dark life gets, never let them take your joy. Never let them take your joy. And that has rung true with me in my entire life, especially in the darkest moments. Never let them take your joy. So, no.
The film that you're doing, The Firing Squad, there's one scene in it in particular that's it's when you're walking out to
I know you don't want to give away the end of the movie.
I don't want to give away,
describe
but
it.
let's
I know
just
what you're trying to do.
Face the inevitable. How's that? That could be anything.
Yeah.
And you actually sing Amazing Grace.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you really do sing.
Yeah.
Do you have that in your blood?
Yeah.
The singing? That's
the main ingredient. My father, lead singer of the group, the main ingredient.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he used to tell me all the time, I'm the singer, you're the actor. And so I was afraid to death to sing until I went on Broadway and did 9 months of vocal training. And it's so funny. I did forget to mention this earlier. When I did Freedom with Tim Che, he had me sing at the end of that movie, Amazing Grace, and I was so horrible and so bad. And after you shoot a movie, you loop it so you can go on the sound stage and correct it. It was still horrible because I didn't have a voice. I just didn't have a voice. But when he sent me this new script that had that same song in it, I said, now let's do this.
Right. You're not going to make the same mistake again.
Get behind me, Satan, and don't push.
So your faith walk, let's talk about that. You said you've been a believer for a long time, forever. At what point in your life did that really, really resonate with you and you really believed that you were a believer?
That's an interesting question. It's almost like, at what point did you realize you were breathing? It was that thing where, I've always been an entertainer. I've always been somebody who goes in a room and it makes people, like the energy, it's there. It's on and off switch. And I think that was a gift from God when I was young. If in the tested moments when things are really dark, especially when you're grieving the loss of someone, I still find peace. I still find something where I know that it's God's will. I know I can let go, let God, and everything will work out. And I think in those moments are when I believe I'm here for a purpose. So.
And has there ever been a time that you said to yourself, God, where are you? Why have you left me in this dark place? And you've not heard anything?
Well, I don't say the same dialogue as you just put. When I separated from my wife of 21 years, I couldn't understand why I was in that situation, because it was one of those things where I was living the life that I thought I should. And it was in that moment, the quiet moments. Like I used to tell people, the hardest part is waking up in the morning and you're trying to, your body's refreshed, but your mind's racing. And that's when you can go the darkest. And that might've been that period. It's funny because at some point when you go through tragedies, and I know this is an age statement, but you start to realize that don't hang on to this moment too long because there'll be more coming, right? Mm-hmm. Good and bad. So get through this one and stay healthy and prepare yourself for the next one. Mm-hmm. And I think that's God talking to you. I think that's God saying, I got this. You just hang in there, And yeah.
So there's one question I like to ask from time to time, and it's sounds simple, but I really want you to think about this a second.
Can I use my Google?
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I think you grow up when your kids say that you inspired them. I truly believe that. Or they say something to someone else and it gets back to you. That's what I think you reach maturity. I read somewhere, I was listening to some interview where they said, you don't fully mature until your parents pass. And I think there's something in that where you have to get to that next level of pain to finally release your ultimate fears. But I think, this is all a chain, right? We're all connected. But if you just think of family, my dad did what he was supposed to do for me, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do for my sons, and my sons can pay me back by doing something for their kids, and my daughter, their kids. And, I think that's when I'll grow up. Not that I want to die, but that's when I grow up, when they can say that my dad did this for me,
Well, Cuba, thank you for stopping by. I mean, this has been a wonderful half hour.
Oh, this isn't the pre-show.
Oh. Thanks again, Cuba. Thanks for stopping by the Homestead Studio. We really, really appreciate it. And folks, The Firing Squad hits theaters on August the 2nd. That's just days away. So you'll want to get your tickets right now at FiringSquadFilm.com. That's FiringSquadFilm.com. And you can find out where it's playing in your area and get some good seats. FiringSquadFilm.com. This has been CIA, Contagious Influencers of America. From the producers of the #1 faith-based show in all of America, I'm talking about Keep the Faith. You can check out our website at KeepTheFaith.com. We've got all kinds of goodies for you at KeepTheFaith.com, including some shows that you can listen to and watch. We also have, we have new videos that we're posting every day. And there's some takeaways, some giveaways. So check it out at KeepTheFaith.com, all right? And, of course, our podcast you can find at ContagiousInfluencers.com. That's at ContagiousInfluencers.com. I'm DavidSams, and this has been CIA, Contagious Influencers of America. Hey, do me a favor. This week, go out there and live that life in living color, because it sure is a heck of a lot more interesting than living in black and white. See you next time.